In episode 163 of the Unrivaled Tang Sect, Hui Yuhao clashes with Di Tian, while Zhongli Wu seizes the opportunity to launch a surprise attack. With a single strike, he gravely wounds Di Tian, intending to kill the beast god and claim his soul ring and soul bone. After emerging from seclusion as a newly promoted titled Dolua, Hui Yuhao immediately began a fierce battle against Di Tian, the 800,000-year-old beast god. Every spectator present was a top-tier expert, yet all of them instinctively covered their mouths, their eyes filled with disbelief. Before them, they were witnessing the birth of a miracle. A human soul master barely in his 20s had endured Di Tian's full-powered attack head-on. Judging solely from the surface of the battle, Hui Yuhao was still inexperienced and clearly at a disadvantage. However, considering the 800,000-year difference in cultivation between them, merely holding his ground was already an achievement that defied all reason. As the one who had exchanged blows with him directly, Di Tian understood the terrifying nature of Hui Yuhao's attack better than anyone. The cold energy of ultimate ice had already seeped deep into his flesh, slowing the circulation of his bloodline and suppressing the power of his very origin. Di Tian was both shocked and bewildered. He could not believe that a young human soul master had not only precisely sealed his spatial power, but had also reflected the freezing force of ultimate ice back into his body. Hui Yuhao had paid a terrible price as well. Di Tian's dark spatial power had invaded his body, covering him in dense patterns of purple-black light. Both his physical body and soul power had suffered a violent impact. Fortunately, he was wearing the most powerful humanoid soul tool of the era, the Ice War God armor. Layers of gentle blue radiance flowed across its surface, rapidly dissolving the dark energy inside him. The purple-black pattern soon faded and disappeared. More importantly, the divine-level armor perfectly concealed the true extent of Hui Yuhao's injuries. No one knew what condition he was truly in, giving him the perfect opportunity to prepare his next move. The situation changed in an instant. While Di Tian was still unsettled and considering what had just happened, Hui Yuhao's figure suddenly flickered and vanished from the sky. Even Di Tian, who had already locked onto Hui Yuhao's aura and possessed profound mastery over spatial laws, could only sense a faint distortion in the air before completely losing track of him. Hui Yuhao's strange movement technique and concealment ability caused Di Tian's expression to become solemn. Only then did he finally realize that he had severely underestimated this young human soul master from the very beginning. In that instant, Di Tian became certain of the truth. An ordinary titled Dolua would never possess the qualifications or strength to withstand his full-powered attack. It would be even more impossible for such a person to reflect his power and seal the surrounding space. There was only one possible explanation. Hui Yuhao had accomplished a miracle never before achieved in human history. He had successfully formed a yin-yang complementary second soul core. The moment this thought appeared, intense wariness and killing intent surged through Di Tian's heart. More accurately, it was the desire to imprison him. Di Tian understood how terrifying the potential of yin-yang complementary dual soul cores could be. Hui Yuhao's rate of growth had already exceeded every known limit. Given enough time, this young man would inevitably become uncontrollable. He would grow into a supreme expert capable of shaking the foundations of the Great Star Do Forest and threatening Di Tian's own position. Di Tian immediately made his decision. He could not allow Hui Yuhao to leave today. He did not wish to kill such an extraordinary genius, but he was determined to capture him alive and take him back to the Great Star Do Forest, where he would remain imprisoned forever. Di Tian intended to destroy Hui Yuhao's cultivation, seal the heaven-defying power of destiny within him, and extinguish this future supernova before he could fully rise. The situation became critical once again. Di Tian gripped the black dragon sword with both hands and withdrew his aura, silently preparing an even more powerful attack. The atmosphere across the entire sky became oppressively heavy. Just as everyone believed Hui Yuhao was certain to die and the battle was about to escalate, Hui Yuhao made an exquisitely dangerous move. It was perhaps the most brilliant act of exploiting another's strength that anyone present had ever witnessed. In the next instant, Hui Yuhao abruptly appeared behind Di Tian. Brilliant blue flames erupted from the back of the Ice War God armor. With astonishing speed, he crossed 10 miles of open sky in an instant. Rather than retreating, he surged forward, diving directly toward the Sun Moon Empire's military encampment below. Juzi, who had been watching from a distance, immediately turned pale. She cried out in alarm and ordered the entire army to prepare for battle. Every Soul Tool formation activated its defensive systems at full strength. Juzi instantly understood Hu Yuhao's intentions. He was openly redirecting disaster toward the Sun-Moon Empire. Hu Yuhao knew that a full-powered clash between himself and Di Tian would unleash unimaginable destruction. Once their powers erupted without restraint, everything within a 1,000-mile radius could be annihilated. He refused to draw the battle toward Shrek City and endanger his companions, so he decisively redirected the devastating confrontation toward the Sun-Moon Empire's main army. Strangely, Di Tian did not pursue him immediately. He remained standing in the sky, holding the black dragon sword as he silently observed Hu Yuhao's movements. His thoughts were chaotic, and hesitation flickered in his eyes. Hu Yuhao did not slow down. Using the extreme speed granted by his newly formed dual soul cores, he reached the air above the Sun-Moon Empire's army in the blink of an eye. He immediately activated his spiritual interference domain. The light and shadows around him twisted, completely concealing his figure and causing every detection soul tool below to malfunction. No one could determine his exact location. After a brief silence, Di Tian finally moved. His posture remained elegant, yet it carried limitless divine authority. He shifted from holding the sword with one hand to gripping it tightly with both. The black dragon sword had finished gathering power. A supreme purple-black sword light tore through the air. Its momentum appeared overwhelming, yet the instant it pierced the void, it silently disappeared. Invisible spatial power swept across heaven and earth. The land, which had previously been covered by dark clouds, suddenly became clear. Sunlight shone down from above, but no one felt the slightest warmth. Only bone-piercing cold and terror remained. Elder Xian, the ultimate Dolua watching from the side, felt his heart skip a beat. His entire body tensed, for he understood just how terrifying this attack truly was. The fatal strike hidden within the void crossed the vast distance and accurately descended upon Hu Yuhao, who was concealed inside the Sun-Moon Empire's military camp. Hu Yuhao was forced to reveal himself. He planted both feet firmly on the ground and gripped the Morning Dew Blade, also known as the Sigh of the Ice and Snow Goddess. His expression was solemn as he prepared to face the seemingly unstoppable attack with everything he had. Tens of thousands of Sun-Moon Empire soldiers and soul engineers stood frozen around him. Not one of them dared to take a single step forward. Anyone capable of confronting the beast god Di Tian directly was far beyond their ability to challenge. The slightest mistake could result in the complete destruction of the entire army. With Hu Yuhao at the center, the temperature within a 1,000-meter radius plummeted. The ground froze solid as pure white icy mist surged outward. The Ice War God armor glowed with brilliant blue radiance, while the divine Morning Dew Blade released a magnificent frozen light. At the same time, two extraordinary illusions slowly appeared behind Hu Yuhao. A golden sun and a blue moon illuminated one another as yin and yang revolved in perfect harmony. They were the ultimate symbol of his yin-yang complementary dual soul cores. At that moment, Di Tian finally confirmed that Hu Yuhao's dual soul cores had been completed. The young man had truly created an unprecedented miracle in the history of human soul masters. Facing the purple attack descending through the void, Hu Yuhao decisively raised his blade and slashed upward. A crisp metallic collision echoed across heaven and earth. In that instant, Hu Yuhao's entire body shook violently as though he had been struck by lightning. The two yin-yang soul cores within him suddenly stopped rotating. The circulation of his soul power nearly ceased, and even his thoughts froze momentarily. Every meridian in his body was being torn apart by terrifying destructive power, as though his entire body were about to shatter. At the critical moment, the heaven-defying properties of his dual soul cores fully erupted. The golden sun and blue moon behind him released a faint glow. Strange yin-yang energy flowed through his body like an adhesive, rapidly repairing the ruptured meridians and distorted space within him, while reorganizing his scattered power. At the same time, countless deep blue whirlpools appeared across the surface of the Ice War God armor. They continuously absorbed, dissolved, and dispersed the terrifying force of the black dragon sword, neutralizing at least 70% of the fatal damage. Without the protection of two divine artifacts and the support of his dual soul cores, That single attack would have killed Hu Yuhao on the spot. The collision between these two supreme forces created a rare phenomenon, a dark ice tornado. Di Tian's darkness and Hu Yuhao's ultimate ice intertwined and merged. Countless dark blue whirlpools fell from Hu Yuhao's body. The moment they touched the ground, they expanded violently and transformed into enormous tornadoes that ravaged the entire area. Within a 1,000-meter radius, tents, machinery, weapons, and supplies were instantly consumed and pulverized into dust. Nothing remained intact. The Sun Moon Empire's military camps had been meticulously arranged. Every section had been constructed around soul tool formations, creating an interconnected defensive network that was considered nearly indestructible. However, before the dark ice tornadoes, for interconnected defensive barriers were instantly contaminated. Their energy consumption soared at an uncontrollable rate. Countless soul engineers desperately poured their soul power into the formations, but they still could not stop the disaster from spreading. In the end, 2 enormous soul tool positions were completely destroyed. 50,000 elite soldiers and several hundred soul engineers were wiped out in an instant. A full tenth of the Sun Moon Empire's primary military strength was annihilated. More than 10 seconds passed before Hu Yuhao finally managed to break free from the force restraining him. He stabilized himself, his face filled with solemnity. After this confrontation, he had finally gained a clear understanding of his newly transformed combat power. At the same time, he had seen the true distance between himself and Di Tian. After successfully completing his Yin-Yang complementary second soul core, his cultivation had stabilized at rank 92. The total amount of soul power within him had tripled. Once his soul power was compressed to its extreme and applied in combat, his fighting strength became comparable to that of a rank 96 Super Dolu. His ultimate ice and spiritual power had perfectly merged. His 2 martial souls could now cooperate naturally without requiring deliberate control. With the additional support of 2 divine artifacts, his overall strength had already surpassed that of an ordinary Super Dolua. Yet even after undergoing such a heaven-defying transformation, Hu Yuhao only truly understood the meaning of Di Tian's title after personally enduring one of his attacks. The title of the strongest being in the world was no exaggeration. Di Tian's dark power, combined with his mastery over space, gave him nearly flawless offensive and defensive abilities. The previous strike had already been close to Di Tian's full strength. Had Elder Xian not been nearby, watching closely and restraining Di Tian's actions, Hu Yuhao would have had no chance of surviving if Di Tian had continued his assault. The gulf between their combat strength remained nearly impossible to cross. Just as the battle reached a stalemate and Di Tian prepared to attack again, the situation underwent a shocking reversal. Deep within the Sun Moon Empire's camp, a thin beam of dark red light silently appeared. The resentful spirits of countless fallen soldiers gathered toward it, continuously swelling and condensing. Eventually they transformed into a sinister crimson spear surrounded by countless wailing spirits, the Blood Sea Wraith Spear. This forbidden weapon of evil was not aimed at Hu Yuhao. Its target was Di Tian, the beast god standing high above the battlefield. At the same time, Zhu Zi, commander of the Sun Moon Empire's army, decisively issued an order. Every Soul Tool formation was to open fire in unison. The Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion launched a full assault, and every attack was directed toward Di Tian. The people from Shrek were completely stunned by the scene. They could not understand it. The Sun Moon Empire and the Soul Beast clans had no mortal hatred between them. In fact, both sides shared an unspoken interest in restraining Shrek. Why would the Sun Moon Empire suddenly spare no cost to attack the strongest beast god alive? No one present knew Zhu Zi's hidden thoughts. Even Hu Yuhao himself had no idea. Ever since Hu Yuhao returned their son, Su Yunhan, the hatred Zhu Zi carried for her nation and family had gradually faded. The 2 most important people in her heart were now her son and Hu Yuhao. When she witnessed Di Tian's fatal attack descending upon Hu Yuhao, terror gripped her heart. She could no longer remain a passive observer. She deliberately chose the perfect moment to cooperate with the Holy Ghost Church's secret attack. By doing so, she could avoid arousing suspicion while forcibly restraining and gravely injuring Di Tian, completely removing the deadly threat hanging over Hu Yuhao. Without revealing her feelings, she silently protected the man she loved. The 2 attacks arrived simultaneously. Countless beams of soul tool light swept across the sky, while the Blood Sea Wraith Spear sealed the surrounding space, completely cutting off Dtion's ability to escape through spatial teleportation. Dtion raised his hand and formed a defensive layer of black dragon scales. However, the barrier was instantly shattered by the terrifying energy of the soul tools. The void around him was torn apart and crushed. Under the continuous barrage of high-intensity attacks, Dtion experienced a lethal threat from human forces for the first time. He finally realized that human soul tool technology was no longer what it had once been. It had developed to the point where it could threaten even his life. Such power might one day bring complete destruction upon the great Star Doe forest. At that moment, Hu Hao accurately seized the only opportunity to escape. He understood perfectly that when two powerful forces fought, a third party could reap the benefits. He had no desire to continue battling. While Dtion was restrained by the Soul Tool bombardment and the Blood Sea Wraith Spear, Hu Hao's figure flickered and disappeared into the void. Through spiritual sharing, he led the people from Shrek away from the battlefield in complete silence. Hu Hao had already gained more than enough from this battle. Not only had he successfully formed his dual soul cores and undergone a complete transformation in combat strength, but he had also used Dtion's power to inflict devastating losses upon the Sun Moon Empire's main army. All he needed to do now was withdraw, and allow the remaining forces to fight until they had exhausted one another. Back on the battlefield, Dtion was completely enraged. He poured all his strength into the Black Dragon sword and fought back. With a forceful slash, he tore open part of the sealed space and swallowed nearly 2/3 of the incoming Soul Tool attacks. Even so, the remaining energy caused his aura to surge chaotically, and his body to tremble violently. Before he could catch his breath, a sea of crimson blood engulfed him. The Blood Sea Wraith Spear pierced directly through his defenses and stabbed into his chest. The power of countless resentful spirits invaded his origin, while bone-chilling evil energy tore violently at his body. Suppressing the excruciating pain, Dtion swung his sword and severed the spear. However, he was still unable to completely remove the resentful energy that had already entered his body. In his fury, he slashed toward the depths of the military camp. For evil soul masters from the Holy Ghost Church were gravely wounded, while even the sect leader Zhongli Wu suffered severe injuries. In the end, relying on his immense reserves of power, Dtion forcibly tore apart the sealed space and escaped back to the Great Star Doe forest despite his wounds. Watching the injured Dtion flee, Zhongli Wu's ambition swelled uncontrollably. He became convinced that Dtion had been critically wounded, and that his combat strength had fallen dramatically. Without hesitation, he led every available evil soul master in pursuit toward the Great Star Doe forest. He intended to take advantage of Dtion's weakened state, kill the beast god, replace him as the strongest being on the continent, and allow the Holy Ghost Church to dominate the entire Dolua continent. In Zhongli Wu's eyes, the forbidden technique formed from tens of thousands of resentful spirits was powerful enough to completely erode Dtion's origin. This was an opportunity for them to overturn the balance of power, one that might not appear again for 1,000 years. Once the dust of the battlefield had settled, Hu Hao, now far away from the fighting, could no longer suppress his injuries. A mouthful of blood erupted from his lips. His body swayed unsteadily, but Elder Xian quickly caught and supported him. Although Hu Hao had appeared to escape without suffering any harm, both his physical body and soul power had actually endured violent shocks. He had only managed to stabilize himself temporarily through the extraordinary self-healing capabilities of his dual soul cores. After everyone returned to the Sea God's pavilion, Hu Hao knelt before the golden tree. He expressed his gratitude to Elder Mu for making it possible for him to successfully form his yin-yang complementary second soul core. Before the golden tree, he swore that he would protect Shrek with his life. Elder Xian looked at the transformed disciple before him with immense satisfaction. Yet his heart was also unbearably heavy. The battle had shown everyone the terrifying strength of the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineer armies. They had even managed to gravely injure the beast god Dtion. The road ahead for Shrek would be filled with endless danger. Faced with Elder Xian's concerns, however, Hu Hao had already seen through the true nature of the situation. He stated plainly that Zhongli Wu and the other evil soul masters were arrogant and short-sighted. The destructive power of the Blood Sea Wraith Spear was indeed terrifying. The corrosive force of tens of thousands of resentful spirits could gravely wound almost any supreme expert. However, Ditian also possessed yin-yang balanced dual soul cores. His yin-yang soul power, cultivated over hundreds of thousands of years, possessed exceptional resistance and purification abilities. It could rapidly dissolve the evil energy of the resentful spirits. Although Ditian appeared to have suffered devastating injuries, his foundation remained untouched. His combat strength was still terrifying,